The Employee Retention Credit, also known as ERC, is a federal program that is still available as of right now for business owners with W-2 employees on the books during 2020 and 2021. So today I'm going to share with you one of the ways you could see how much you qualify for, apply online, and get ready to file for those funds from the IRS. So stick around, you're not going to want to miss this. So you heard right, many business owners have already heard about the Employee Retention Credit, also known as ERC. What many don't realize is that you can still file, as of this recording, retroactively, both for 3 quarters in 2020 and 3 quarters in 2021. Now, unless there's changes from like Congress or the IRS, the deadline to file for 2020 is actually like the middle of April in 2024, and the deadline to file for 2021 is actually the middle of April for 2025. So I'm going to leave a link down below in the description for you to check out a free questionnaire. You can type in some of your information, check some of the boxes where you were impacted, and come back with a number down to the penny of exactly how much of this money you're entitled to. Oh, and real quick, drop a like for this video. All right, so over here is how the application page starts. I've partnered with the good folks at the ERC Specialist. They're a business out of Utah that's been around for going on a couple years now, and all they do is process employee retention credits for small business owners 24/7. Of course, it's a good idea to check with like your local CPA or your payroll department, but honestly, it's been so long that if they have told you you don't qualify, it's at least worth taking a second look at an application like this. So here we go. I'm going to check the box that says Start New Application. Now, if you need to like save your work and come back, that's fine. You can do that. Here they're going to ask for your company name. This should be on all your official documents, your articles of organization, your business checking account. Go ahead and put your first and last name also, your best business email address and business phone number. Then again, this is where all the correspondence are going to go for ERC. So if you want to put your personal email or your personal cell, that works too. Now, what's really cool about this questionnaire is that it will estimate and show you your progress as you go. It's only an estimate, but for this section, they're going to ask for your average full-time W-2 employees for 2020, and then your average full-time W-2 employees for 2021. It's worth noting that your full-time, according to the IRS, if you work at least like on average 30 hours a week or 130 hours in a month. One of the really cool things to all my business owners that employ part-time workers or seasonal workers, you can, yes, include all of them in this questionnaire. But for the sake of this section, just do the average number of full-time. And right here, go ahead and check this little box. It just says that you're opting in to getting started and getting all the info once you're done with the questionnaire. Let's go ahead and click Let's Get Started. All right, on this next screen, I want to point out that little progress bar at the top, that little blue progress bar. And again, they're going to give you some like estimated numbers, but really the steps, the procedures as you're going along are to answer the questions in the questionnaire, to upload some specific payroll docs, and then get in contact with ERC Specialists to actually sign all the documentation and get this return filed with the IRS. It's going to prep you that you do want to get some things together, like the average number of employees you had in 2019. That's actually because they're going to compare 2019 to 2020 and 2019 to 2021. You're also going to need your gross receipts for 2019, 2020, and 2021. This is for that like revenue reduction qualifier that we'll get into later. And you're going to want to gather any ways that government orders, shutdown orders, supply chain issues impacted your business. So that can include names of vendors, items, things you had trouble getting. Okay, moving on. It's going to ask you straight up, did you pay W-2 wages? Unfortunately, this is not for 1099 employees. It's not for people you paid with cash. These had to be people you paid as W-2 workers. You already paid payroll tax to them. You filed those forms, those 941s with the IRS, paid that money. And so then if that applies to you, go ahead and click the yes. Real quick, there's always like little exceptions to the rules, and they do need to know any of the majority owners of the business and their family members. So anyone who owns 51% or more of the business, you got to list their name and all their immediate family. We're talking literally everybody you can think of that works in the business and gets paid as a W-2 employee. I'm getting questions, like I get questions all the time, kind of like, well, what if I only own 50%? Well, then in that case, you don't own 51 or more, so you're not considered a majority owner. There's always some like little exceptions to all the rules, and that's one of them that I did want to at least like make note of and point out. And now here they're asking if you are a federal, state, or local entity. If you are, most likely you're excluded from this program. So you would know if you are, click yes, and if you're not, click no, and then move on. They do need to know if you started your business before or after February 15th, 2020. If you started it after, you're gonna be like sort of referred to as a different kind of business entity for the purposes of this program. So whenever you officially started, just go ahead and put that down. And now I mentioned it before, they're going to compare everything to 2019. So they're asking how many full-time employees did you have on average in 2019? This is a really interesting rule because, again, part-time workers, seasonal workers, you could have as many as you want. But they did set limitations to try to help smaller businesses, small business owners. Okay, clicking ahead, here's that important screen. It's going to talk about revenue reduction, supply chain disruption, and full or partial shutdown. These are going to be the three qualifiers for the 6 available quarters. We're talking 3 in 2020 and 3 in 2021. So you need to go ahead and say, like, did you experience this? And if so, in which quarters? You might say to yourself, well, Rich, how am I supposed to know that? Well, for revenue reduction, what we'll get into is there's a certain amount of revenue reduction. They were a little bit more generous in 2020 compared to 2021. For supply chain, if you had trouble getting like a very important item to you, it could be a good, a material, a service, something like 10% or more of your business, then you're going to qualify. And for full or partial shutdown, in some states they said, hey, you know, you guys can stay open, but you can only have limited seating. Oh no, you can't stay open at all, we got to shut down. Anytime those orders were in place, you can check that box for that quarter. All right, so let's go ahead and continue on. For the sake of this application, I want to show people that you can still qualify even if you didn't have a revenue reduction, or even if you weren't like fully shut down due to some sort of governmental order. But I still will walk people through just in case these other qualifiers apply. So right here for revenue reduction, you had to have a 50% reduction of gross sales in 2020 compared to 2019 in those same quarters. It's kind of just like basic math. You got to look at Q2, 3, and 4 of 2020 and compare it to the same quarter in 2019. For 2021, they were a bit more generous. You only needed a 20% reduction of gross sales when you're comparing it to that same quarter in 2019. Of course, you are going to need your own records to back this up, but click yes if it applies. For the sake of this application, I'm going to click no. So now, as you can see, it moves us to the supply chain disruption screen. This application is adaptive. So if I would have said yes to having some sort of revenue reduction, it would have asked me which quarters. I said no, so now it's moving me on. Go ahead and click these two links here. Notice 2021-11 and 2021-20. This is the IRS explanation of how supply chain disruption applies to the employee retention credit. So let's go ahead and read this over real quick. This is one people want to understand. Supply chain disruption is a common qualification for businesses that rely on vendors and suppliers for their business to function properly. This qualification must have resulted from a government suspension order to your supplier that resulted in the supplier not being able to deliver critical goods, but may continue beyond the original suspension order. The specific requirements are listed in those two links that I just said. The way I like to explain it to people is if your supplier makes everything overseas and they needed to ship it in through the port of New York, and New York was in a state of emergency and the ports were closed down, then your supplier couldn't get you your items, and as a result, you couldn't function in the same way as pre-pandemic, as 2019. Now, there is one exception. If it is something that you could find a reasonable replacement supplier for, then this wouldn't qualify you. But what is a reasonable replacement supplier? From my experience, it is going to be a supplier that can provide you with the exact same item. Without getting into a lot of examples, and I have a whole video, I'll post it right here on supply chain disruption. People had to change the way they did business, and as a result, they couldn't do business in the same way, meaning volume, meaning, basically serving their customers in a way where they had become accustomed to for years on end. So supply chain covers a wide area. No one's going to know your business, your suppliers, your vendors better than you. But now that we discussed it a little bit, let's dive right in. Let's go ahead and click continue. And I am going to say yes. And I am going to say for all 6 quarters. They're going to want us to note that we were not able to find a reasonable replacement supplier for any of the disrupted items. Because we said yes to that, is going to simply now move us on to full or partial suspension. There's a whole list of suspension orders that you can look up for your state, for your category of business. And if you want to read a little bit of here, it gives some IRS examples. Of course, like a restaurant that was able to do takeout, but not, sit-down dining. Employers who were able to maybe have like a skeleton crew on, but they weren't able to do anything for telecommuting, like for Zoom or for Google Meets. Anything like that can be considered a partial shutdown. So go ahead and click yes if you know that this affected your business in that way. Before we move on, I'll even note that there is this little video you can kind of press and watch and have someone explain to you, did you experience a full or partial shutdown? I really love this updated application, so check that part out. For the sake of this application, just to kind of make this video not too long, I'm gonna go ahead and click no. And it's going to say, congratulations, you qualified for all 6 available quarters. And now again, it's just going to confirm some information. It already asked me how, on average, how many employees did I have in 2020 that were W-2? On average, how many employees did I have in 2021 that were W-2? And then you're going to see a screen that looks like this that says, great news. Here's an estimate. This is going to be like a best case scenario, but they really need to take a look at your documents. How much did you actually pay in wages? How many employees did you pay? If you had more employees in one quarter than another, again, 2021 was more generous than 2020. So you are already off to a good start, but you do need to upload those documents. So it's going to say, please add these 2 emails so nothing goes to spam. And then it just wants you to confirm all of your business information. You're going to have to add in your title in the company address, just to verify one more time. It's going to ask what industry you're in. And if you want to include an optional email address of someone that handles your payroll or these types of forms, you could add that in this little part right here. For this last part where it says, who introduced you to ERC specialist, please go ahead and put my name, Rich Smith. Throughout the years, I've helped thousands of business owners get this, and they send me a small commission, so I would appreciate it if you're specific. If you write something like YouTube or the internet, then it won't go attached to me. And then you can check these 2 boxes and click submit. Now, they are going to tell you that you need to, in the next 24 hours, upload those payroll documents. But for the sake of this application, for the sake of this video, keeping it short, I'm just going to flash on the screen right now a little picture of everything that you need to get together and upload if you don't have it uploaded already. If you would like a copy of that, I will leave a link down below in the description. Anybody that signs up using my link to just kind of sniff around this application, try it out for themselves, I'll send you a little email personally, and I'll send you a screenshot of that same little checklist that I just sent. They are going to ask if you got PPP, like draw 1, draw 2, both, none, and that's simply because they are going to have to take out those wages later. After they calculate your employee retention credit, you're not allowed to double dip the same government funds for the same purpose at the same time, so they'll exclude those from the ERC calculation. It's also going to ask about any other government grants that you may have got. Go ahead and select the answer that applies to you. And now it's time to either manually upload everything, like you got a PDF or an Excel file, or they actually have an automatic upload option, which is really cool. I'm going to click on that so you can see what it looks like. If you're familiar with Plaid or other types of services that can automatically link to your bank or to your payroll system, this is just like that. So you can go ahead and click continue and then select your payroll provider. Personally, I use Gusto, but if you use Paychex, ADP, Wave, any of the big ones, then you should be able to search for them, click connect, and then immediately like upload everything without having to like wait. All right, in terms of big picture key takeaways, I wanted to walk you through step by step how to fill out a free questionnaire to see if your business qualifies for the Employee Retention Credit ERC. This is money that's been around for a few years, but in the beginning, nobody really knew about it. And then when people started to hear that there was a government program you could apply for retroactively, they really did think it was too good to be true. Well, I'm telling you that it is real, and it takes the government on average, like the IRS, maybe 6, 8, 12 months to get you these funds after you file. So don't pre-qualify yourself. Take the free questionnaire. Again, I'll leave that link down below in the description. See how much you potentially qualify for. Link your payroll documents, upload them, get that number back. That's completely free. And then full disclosure, if you decide to file with ERC specialists, then there is going to be a success fee that's due. They offer like a pay now or pay later when the money all comes in. Now, my website is full of other resources about government programs, business, finance. So please check it out. Also, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. All right, as always, I'm Rich, and until next time.